Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of the Sweet Nothings podcast. Almost as always overdue, but here we are. We are so back. If you're new here or if it's been a while, this is your home of relaxed, funny, and informative chats all about the love of eating. We'll talk about the latest food trends, controversial opinions, and all things edible. And more specifically today, folks, we're going to be getting into not cheat meals, but repeat meals. Meals we have on repeat. Meals that we just can't stop making and remaking and eating and re-eating. And why? I want to talk about mine, I want to talk about yours, and I want to dig into the comfort of the whole thing and perhaps some reasoning behind it. But of course, before that, it's time to get into just what we've missed in the last couple of months that there hasn't been one of these episodes. And folks, I didn't think I would still have to be talking about the bloody Dubai chocolate. But alas, here we are. Dubai, everything is still everywhere. In chocolate bars, in biscuits inspired by it, drinks inspired by it, cereal, sweets, everything inspired by this combination of chocolate and pistachio and some kind of crunchy pastry. I'm very tired. We're all very tired. It really is time to move on. Another kind of trend I've been seeing a lot in the past couple of months have been these cake sandwiches, especially in the UK, taking inspiration from what I believe are those kind of Japanese sandwiches that they sell in some shops over there. I've never been, I'm no expert here, but a sandwich that's essentially a dessert. You know, it will have some kind of fresh cream or fresh fruit or like a cream cheese kind of icing in it almost to make a sandwich. And Marks and Spencer's have kind of taken direct inspiration to make something like that of their own. Tesco have made one that is just a straight up sandwich box full of birthday cake for some reason or other. I don't really know how I feel about the whole thing. I think that my question is always is, what is this for? Is it a dessert? Is it a snack? Is it a meal? Is it to be shared? Is it to be had alone? I have no idea. It's a kind of cute idea. Will we see it evolve into other flavors? Will we see it go and last the test of time? Who knows? But that's really been it in terms of food trends, other than something that needs to come along to knock out Dubai chocolate, please, God, for the sake of us all. There hasn't really been anything that can compete. There have been already some serious steps towards novelty food products, however, both for autumn and also getting into the kind of festive, wintry Christmas product obsession that we have every single year. One that caught my eye particularly for being just a combination of bizarre and uncalled for to a level I've never seen before is we've seen two new products from Party Rings, as in the Fox's Biscuits Party Rings. For anyone watching outside of the UK who hasn't had the displeasure of eating these biscuits, they're essentially the worst biscuits you could possibly imagine. They are tasteless aside from the absolutely absurd quantity of sugar that each and every single one contains. They are so hard and yet also not well designed for like dunking in tea or in milk. Diabolical. They're supposed to be for kids' birthday parties, I would imagine, because they are these kind of unsurprisingly, ring-shaped biscuits with this kind of pastel-coloured icing on top. But, you know, anyone who doesn't, I mean, even people who do have full adult teeth, anyone who doesn't have full adult teeth shouldn't be going anywhere near them. So I have no idea really who is still buying them. And yet, this year, because of course, as we're talking now, it's getting into October, they've released a Halloween edition that aren't ring-shaped, still party-themed somewhat though, so we'll allow it. And these are like bat and pumpkin and ghost-shaped biscuits for Halloween. Why Party Rings? Literally any other brand could have done this. They've also released a celebration cake, which I truly can't imagine, even like the depths of the Costco cakes of you know, history combined probably couldn't have had the quantity of sweetness that a party ring cake could potentially contain. And again, who is this for? Nothing would lend itself worse to the consistency of a cake than a bloody party ring. But here we are. Also on the list of kind of uncalled for products that we've seen in the last few weeks, especially I think more for the kind of Halloween or autumn market here, connected to the release of the new Stranger Things series. Somehow, spicy Babybels, folks. Babybels, I don't know if they're international, if they're just a European thing, but our favourite little kind of kids' snack cheese will now come in a spicy edition. Who is this for? Who is this possibly for? I love a Babybel. Have I ever eaten one and gone, you know what this could really use? A wee touch of the Carolina Reaper. Just a little dod of jalapeno in there. No idea who this is for, but they exist now apparently. We've also seen Marks and Spencer's release a kind of grape that is apparently 10 years in the making. 10. A grape that tastes like a red berry. Who asked for this? What was wrong with the grapes in the first place? What was wrong with the berries in the first place? Why do we need grapes that taste like berries in the autumn? Let grapes have their moment. The berries have already had their whole season. Everyone just relax. We've also seen some things show up already in time for the the Christmas season, including Lindor, as in the Lindor brand, those little truffles that are just ever present at Christmas time, forever trying to market themselves as luxurious, in a shortbread flavour. Now, it's not often that my Scottish patriotism comes out in leaps and bounds. Usually it comes out whenever anyone in any other country ever has to form an orderly queue, but it did come out a little bit when I saw this, because what do you mean? What do you mean, shortbread? Are there little tiny broken pieces of shortbread biscuit inside? Is there one sphere of shortbread in every single Lindor ball? How could the taste of shortbread ever hold up to the taste of all of the cocoa, sugar, and oil that is already contained in a Lindor truffle? I have no idea. I can't possibly understand why this would have come up before so many other kinds of biscuit possibilities, or why this would be the option, you know? Speaking of biscuits no one asked for, gingerbread, of course, has to be the start of the show, because while from perhaps, the next 25 to 30 days, it's all things pumpkin spice. Everything afterwards, folks, is gingerbread. I don't make the rules. And two unnecessary gingerbread products that I've already seen kind of advertised as coming soon or available is the gingerbread Muller Corner yogurt. The little quadrangle of yogurt with the little triangle of filling. A gingerbread yogurt, I believe, or vanilla yogurt, I can't remember, with tiny gingerbread biscuits and tiny bits of chocolate. If you're going to do a dessert, just have the dessert. A Muller Corner yogurt to me has always been something you have for breakfast. I've never been one of those people who's had it as like a dessert, as a pudding. If you're gonna have a pudding, have an ice cream, for the love of God. Treat yourself to a mini magnum rather than putting yourself through yogurt and gingerbread, please. Similarly, ambrosia custard, which again, if you're watching or listening from outside of the UK, are these it's a tin of basic kind of vanilla egg custard that they've flavoured with gingerbread, meaning what? They've added black treacle, cinnamon and ginger. Why? What are you putting that on? Or is that meant to be eaten on its own with a spoon like a soup? No one's eating an apple crumble and going, I would love more cinnamon. What's the occasion? Are we having desserts I haven't heard of yet that need to be topped with these things? I don't know. Help. And the last one I would like to bring attention to here, and this is, again, to me leads towards Christmas, because this brand is just associated with Christmas permanently, whether they intend to or not, is that Terry's, as in the makers of chocolate orange and very little else, have decided to release a caramel edition of their chocolate orange. Now you might think, what's the problem here? What's the point? And I'm leaving this pause for as long as I need to. Why would it need to be the shape of an orange? Because it's not even like a chocolate orange flavored with caramel. No, it's caramel chocolate shaped into segments and then arranged into the usual Terry's chocolate orange style, and then put in the same blue coloured box. Who is asking for this? Who wants to eat the orange segments that don't even taste like orange? Who's this for? What's the occasion? Who is this market? Wait art for all of these products. Who is it? If it's you, let me know in the comments on YouTube or send me an Instagram DM or something, because I feel like I'm losing my mind. Truly, there have been there have been more examples, but I would have taken up a whole episode just to talk about these. I just had to touch on those because, I feel like there's so much opportunity to make exciting new products instead of just taking things and putting them into others. But that just seems to be the only thing we're good at recently. And I don't know why. But turning away from the terror of new products that aren't even new, they're just sort of, Frankensteined together and then released onto the market. Let's talk about comfort. And not even necessarily comfort food. Let's talk about the comfort of repeating meals, eating the same things every day, all the time. Now, of course, this is something that many, 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 many of us do. And I can imagine for many different reasons, whether it's for comfort, whether it's for simplicity, whether it's for ease, whether it's for convenience, whether it's for peace of mind. I don't know, but obviously it's probably something that happened even more frequently generations ago when our food choices were far more limited. But that's part of what makes it so interesting to me, and has been pulling me in even more in kind of the last month or so, because I've been talking to a few different people about this, that even with all of the choice that we have in supermarkets nowadays, even with all of the wide range of things available on Deliveroo, on Just Eat, on, every possible food delivery app, in every supermarket, in every restaurant, in every takeaway, and yet so many of us still eat the same things every single day. Some people don't care for what season it is. Some people don't care for how the weather is or what their schedule is like. They just eat the same things. I haven't always been someone who ate the same thing all my life. I still don't eat the same things every single day. I have a few things that are definitely on recycle and repeat, but some people really do have the same things all the time. Whereas I'd probably consider myself someone who gets more pulled into phases of having the same thing very regularly for say 2 or 3 months, and then I'll find something new, latch onto that and do the same thing there. So it won't be the same thing all year round, whether that's for, again, convenience, price, availability, whatever it is. But for example, during my years at university, whether I was, during term time or during study leave, during exams, whatever it was, I ate at least once a day. Also, due to the year that this was, the fashionability of it at the time, toast with avocado and or hummus and tomatoes on top. In some form or another, at least once a day, it was ever present. Whether it was 2 slices of toast, one with the avocado and the hummus, with fresh tomatoes or sun-dried tomatoes, sometimes all together, sometimes in a sandwich if I had to actually leave the house and take it with me, pretty much every single day. And I remember every day eating it, thinking, this is it. This is it, folks. I've found it. This is meal. This is the meal. And, it's a fairly balanced plate of food. It has the carbohydrates. It's got a little bit of protein. Some would say not enough. It's got the fat. It's got nutrients. It's relatively cheap. Not the cheapest, but it's relatively cheap. And, it wasn't difficult to make. Of course, it was very quick, low in effort. So when I had somewhere to be, whether I was starving and I'd just come back, from the bus from uni, or whether I was studying and didn't have much time, it was perfect. And yet, kind of phased out of it. When I started working instead in an office during my lawyer days, I liked a lunchbox of like picky finger food. So I would always take, say, sliced up cucumber or sliced up carrot, sometimes both, sliced up pepper if I was feeling particularly exciting that week. And then it would be arranged, either it was one of those lunchboxes that had different kind of sections, or I would arrange the sections myself. And there would be some cheese in there, probably some hummus in there too, some crackers or some breadsticks, some fruit, and then always some kind of dessert, like some chocolate or some biscuits, a piece of cake if I'd made it, something like that. And, I would often eat like that at home as well. Like lunch at home wouldn't be, something I would think about and make. It probably wouldn't even be something as straightforward as a sandwich either. It would be these things arranged on a plate just to pick at and touch. For that very reason, I enjoyed very much the kind of girl dinner trend of last year or the year before, whenever it was, because that's exactly how I was finding myself eating. And now, living in a different country, living in a different climate, which focuses much more on seasonality from what I've seen, and working in hospitality, I'm very much on repeat risotto in the winter or soup in the winter, at least once a day. And in the summer, as many of you are probably sick of seeing if you follow me on any kind of social media, where I post my what I eat in a day videos, cold fruit, vegetables, cheese and crackers. That's it. And, even less effort than the picky finger foods of years gone by. We're talking tomatoes on a plate, next to some blueberries, next to some cheese, next to some crackers or some taralli, which are basically crackers in a different shape. I could eat that twice a day for the rest of my life. That's how it feels right now, at least. I know I'll change it again because the weather's getting colder. I'll probably feel like something more filling, something more warming. But it's I don't know, to me, it just always, I find these kind of combinations that just feel like that could take me to the end of my days. Why is that? I don't know. Of course, the other one I would mention at the moment, which is a little bit less kind of seasonally influenced, is just couscous, because basically it brings all the comfort and joy and flexibility, potential that pasta brings in like a 12th of the time. Big fan. And you're probably, again, if you follow me on any kind of social media, you'll see me repeating couscous with tuna, some kind of legume and some kind of vegetable with olive oil and stuff on repeat, because I don't have to think, and it's just lots of stuff mixed in a bowl. And it has everything. Nutritionally speaking, it has everything. It's not lacking acidity, it's not lacking salt, it's not lacking fat, it's got everything in there. I don't know if it's that means that it's so satisfying, or if it's just because I don't have to think very much, or both. I have a few people in my life who live a similar way. Now, I don't know if that's because, we attract what is similar to us, or whatever it is, or, this is just a very common phenomenon. But my mum, who's probably listening, is someone who's been having the same meals for breakfast and lunch. Dinner changes every day, but her lunch and breakfast, though sometimes swapped, have been exactly the same for at least 6 or 7 years, probably longer. And again, growing up as a kid, though her breakfast was slightly different to what it is now, it was that every single day. The supermarket visit was always the same, every single day. And it's fascinating. My lovely partner, my lovely other half, he's exactly the same. He'll go through these kind of phases of having only one thing for breakfast and only one thing at lunchtime. He's often even a dinner repeater. Like, he'll do the same 3 meals for a whole week, 2 weeks. That to me is slightly crazy behavior, but I chose him, so that's on me. But in all of this, in speaking to people I know, in thinking about myself, and also in kind of collecting some answers from you guys, thank you for those, by the way, on Instagram and on YouTube, the most repeated meal seems to be breakfast. Now, this I find particularly interesting. I'm a big hardcore breakfast repeater also. Usually, or at least so far this year, it's been constantly on repeat: bread with peanut butter and jam, or a kind of chocolate granola with milk and banana. Doesn't get much more exciting than that a lot of the time. And I had a look. I asked the internet why this is, and I found this article from Time magazine from a few years ago that suggests kind of a smaller desire for pleasure being required in the morning, in the sense that, for some reasons, psychologically, we kind of are almost on automatic mode when we wake up. We don't have this need for pleasure. We don't have this need for things that we want rather than things that we need first thing in the morning. Whether that's some kind of survival thing, whether that's because we're, highest performing when we're rested, I don't really know. And so for that reason, people found it very easy to just get up, do the thing, all very robotic, make the thing, eat the thing, out the door to work or to school, wherever they need to go. The same article was kind of quoting a study that was done on a relatively small group, about 1,000 to 4,000 people in France, and then the same quantity in the USA. And just kind of, asking about what they ate and things like that, especially for breakfast. And both populations, though I think French people even more so, over 50% of both of these groups repeatedly ate the exact same thing for breakfast without fail, without issue, without problem. I just find that fascinating, even across different cultures. Why is that? I don't know, it's something that's really interested me this month. And in asking you guys, something that is consistently on repeat, just to see if there was any crossover, if there was any, Venn diagram, meet me in the middle kind of thing. And absolutely, there were so many of you responded talking about, for example, let's start with breakfast, porridge or some kind of oats, whether it's overnight oats or oatmeal porridge with either exactly the same toppings or a slight variation in toppings every day, because that's what fills you up. It's what keeps you full. It's what, balances your blood sugars, keeps you nice and awake during the morning. Lots and lots and lots of people said that they have some kind of yogurt bowl every single day. This I'm also a big fan of, and it's something I might need to get back into. Whether it's yogurt with cereal, yogurt with granola, with muesli, with some kind of nut butter, with some kind of fruit, always just yogurt with stuff on top or mixed in. Big response. Again, I think this is probably just another example of one that is just so nutritionally balanced that it's like, why wouldn't you repeat this every day, You have protein, you have vitamins, you have minerals, you have fat, you have carbohydrates. Another big one, unsurprisingly, considering that I probably attract people who eat in a similar way to the way that I do, lots and lots and lots of people saying bagels with avocado or toast with avocado every single day without fail. Something they love for breakfast. Some people said it for lunch too, but it was a big, big, big one. Getting still in the course of breakfast, but not entirely, lots of people saying eggs, that they eat eggs every single day. And I think this has to be a given. They're so affordable compared to other protein sources. They are so versatile. They're so easy to portion. They're so easy to cook. It's often the first thing that people do learn to cook in terms of hot food, So it was absolutely no surprise that they were there. Eggs are something I love, but I very, very rarely make for myself. I think it's mostly just my reluctance to clean pans that stops me from doing it. But I really do love them when I eat them. Sandwiches, unsurprisingly, going from kind of breakfast to brunch to lunch territory, were something that you guys were saying you eat every day. Again, because I live alone, I tend not to buy big loaves of bread just because it's a bit of a pain to get through sometimes, but sandwiches, when I was sharing bread with other people, is an absolute go-to. There's a reason that they're so widespread throughout the whole planet. Pasta was a big one, especially for lots of my lovely Italian followers. Non avevo dubbi. I had no doubt that that was going to be up there because, again, what is more versatile? A few answers I actually didn't expect, but there were at least 3 or 4 of you responded saying that every single day or very, very regularly, you'll have sweet potato topped with something. And I love this because it brings back that very kind of British 90s and noughties favourite of the baked potato, the jacket potato, the baked tatty, which again is such a good basis. A carbohydrate with stuff on top will never go wrong. And it's probably one of the most glorious, filling and satisfying meals that exist. So I can imagine a sweet potato being even more nutritious would do exactly the same thing. Lots of people from around the world were responding saying that they have rice with vegetables or rice with beans or rice with beans and vegetables every day. Again, perfectly sensible, perfectly balanced, super filling. The kind of thing that, takes maybe a little while to prep, but once you have it on hand or once you're into a routine of it, an absolute winner. One that spoke to me very much here were a few people saying that they have grilled chicken, roast chicken, or they'll buy like rotisserie chicken every week. And this is something, I don't do it so much in the summer because I just don't have as much of a craving for something so filling or something hot. But in the winter, getting like a €5 rotisserie chicken and making it last 3 days, whether it's with noodles, with rice, in a sandwich, in a salad, is just so, so satisfying. I think, especially if you don't have much time to cook the chicken yourself, or again, if you live on your own, or if you're not cooking for others at the same time, getting the rotisserie chicken and making what would last for one meal for a few people last days is also very satisfying and quite cost effective. And in thinking about it, there must be good reason aside from, maybe me and you guys listening, or you guys following, having something in common in terms of our tastes. I know a large amount of us are around the same kind of age group. Many of us are of the same gender. Many of us are of the same continent or even of the same country. So, of course, tastes are going to overlap undoubtedly. However, it's fascinating to see that so many of these things, maybe whether intended to or not, are balanced meals. It's not like people were coming in and saying, yes, I have a bag of Skittles every day. or coming in saying that they'll eat, this exactly the same crisps 7 times a week. Lots of people maybe do, but when talking about actual meals, it's like there's some kind of intrinsic way that our body knows what it needs, or that we can pick up on what is satisfying, not only in terms of taste. And you know of course, it's not the most physically healthy thing to repeat meals constantly, especially if you're repeating every single meal of every single day. However, repeating one or two every day, as long as there is balance in there in terms of your macronutrients and in terms of, the vitamins and things that you're able to pick up from the vegetables, I don't see why not. There has to be a reason that so many of us do it, and it can't just be for the sake of convenience. A large part of it maybe, but I feel like our bodies do guide us towards what is good for it. And as long as it's not constantly the same thing forever, from when we're born until when we die, though I imagine that many of our ancestors did live like that, then, physically, is it healthy? Why not? Mentally healthy, on the other hand, is kind of the thing that attracted me to this. So, I'm always interested in how we eat and why we eat, not just what we eat. I think many of you guys listening are probably the same way. And I think the biggest thing we can probably put this down to, if not for convenience, probably for what's often called decision fatigue. So, like I said, despite the vast selection of foods that we have available at our fingertips, let alone in our supermarkets, it's like our little caveman brain is still going, this is too much. I am overstimulated. Give me the simplicity. Give me the easy thing. And while that is convenient, it's like it goes beyond that. This is ease and convenience, but it's almost nonsensical, really, considering how much choice we have at hand constantly. That with everything available to us, we'll still choose to go back to the same things. Where does that come from, if not from some kind of response to constant overstimulation? Do we need as much available as we have? Do we want as much available as we have? Would you even notice if like a quarter of the things in your supermarket just disappeared tomorrow? It's interesting to think about. Speaking for myself personally, because I'm no scientist, I'm no nutritionist here, mine definitely comes from mostly from enjoyment. If I find a combination of things that taste good together and aren't too expensive or too much hassle to put together, of course I'll repeat that. Now even more so than when I worked in an office, etc. I work in hospitality. I work in a kitchen. I'm in there for at least 9 hours a day, preparing sweets and plating things. So I guess there's, even as someone who still absolutely adores cooking, while cooking for others is something I really enjoy and put a lot of love and care and time into, when feeding myself, it's a much more kind of balance and care game rather than pleasure. So if I can find the things that I know will fuel me, because I know I need a good amount of carbohydrates to get me through a full working day on my feet, especially in the summer when it's hot. I know that I need protein if I'm stiff or if I'm sore. I know that I need fat, and that fat tastes good. So, it's like if I can get those things combined and I can make it taste good without having to think about it because I'm already having to think about so much else, that's what fits for me. Is that what it's like for you? Is that what it's like for everyone? Is this just part of being an adult? I see lots of people joking about the fact that one of the hardest things about being a grown up, in fact, I think there was even an interview with Aretha Franklin, of all people, over this, that, even as someone super famous and successful as a grown adult, one of the hardest things she found was having to decide what to have and then having to make dinner every day, which I just find hilarious. Why are we like this? Someone smart out there, tell me why this is. At least from everything I saw online, from everything I heard from you guys, it's a combination of convenience, pleasure, and wanting to avoid, or, that we already have, decision fatigue. But from this, I'm definitely taking some ideas of things I want to get back into. I'm definitely happy to see that I'm not the only person who has some of these things on repeat, or has at least had phases of them in the past and will probably get into again now that the days are getting cooler. And that's it, folks. It's something I find really fascinating. I haven't really dug into it as much as I have in the last kind of week or so. And I've really enjoyed hearing about your examples, thinking about my own, talking to people about it, and looking into why this could be, even though there is never going to be one defined answer. But clearly, it's something super common for various similar reasons. Sorry you had to wait a while for this one. Hopefully it won't be as long a wait for the next one. Thank you so much as always for listening, and I'll see you for the next one.